Mama, don't cry. It's only 1 year. I'll soon be back.
1 year is a long time, Precious. I'll miss you.
I'll miss you too, but I'll call you every day. Please, don't worry.
Those were the last words Precious ever spoke to her mother. 1 year later, she returned, but 4 strange men carried her. She couldn't hug anybody. She couldn't smile. She couldn't even open her eyes because the daughter who left for NYSC came back inside a coffin. And the painful part, Precious did not die in a car accident. She did not die in a robbery. She died waiting for a healthcare system that never came. If you want to understand how a bright 24-year-old graduate went from holding a university degree to being lowered into a dusty grave, you need to see what happened from the very first day. The moment Precious saw Kogi State on her NYSC dashboard, her heart skipped. Jesus, she whispered. Her mother snatched the phone from her hand and shouted,
Over my dead body. You are
not going anywhere near that place. Deeper, come out. They have sent my only daughter to the desert. For 4 long years, Precious had survived on a steady diet of sogari, midnight reading, and lecturers who treated their course materials like state secrets at Emerging Leaders University. The morning before she left for the Kogi State orientation camp, she was in her room when her younger brother Toby walked in. Precious noticed his school slippers were completely torn. Without saying a word, Precious reached into her purse and pulled out a 2,000 naira note, part of the transport money her father gave her. She gave it to Toby and said,
Go to the junction and buy new slippers.
Toby looked at the money, then looked at her and he said, How about your transport to the park? Precious smiled, tapping his nose gently.
Don't worry, everything will be alright. I'll trek.
At the park, her mother held her hand tightly and asked again,
Are you sure you don't want to sit
back at home so that you can follow the next batch? By then, we would have gathered enough money to pay for your direct posting.
Mama, look at me. I'm a big girl.
I'm a big girl, she whispered. As long as we are alive, there is hope. It is only 1 year. I will soon be back. Precious said. She then boarded the bus to Kogi State and her journey officially began. After a long trip, Precious arrived safely at the Kogi State orientation camp. The camp was already filled with prospective corps members, while some were just arriving like she was. Others, who had gotten there earlier, had already completed their registration and changed into their white-on-white NYSC outfits. The first shock hit Precious at exactly 4:30 a.m. on her first morning in the Kogi State orientation camp. The quiet, dark morning was suddenly interrupted by the loud sound of a soldier's bugle outside her hostel window. Before she could even sit up on her bed, she heard soldiers banging hard on the hostel doors with their heavy boots.
Wake up!
Wake up!
Wake
Wake
up!
up! A fierce soldier screamed, his voice booming over the parade ground speakers. Copper, if you are still sleeping, you are wrong. Copper, double up. If I catch you there, you will run from now to 12 o'clock p.m. Move! 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 The camp was a pure theater of chaos. Precious was given an NYSC kit that felt like a joke. Her white NYSC shirts were so big they looked like they could fit 2 people. She also got a pair of oversized jungle boots that looked huge on her small feet. For the first 3 days, she had to walk around the dusty parade ground under the hot sun. The hard boots rubbed against her feet until her heels started bleeding and her white socks became stained with blood. Then came the food queue. Every morning, thousands of corps members stood in long queues with their flask, waiting for a small serving of watery beans or tea that tasted awful. During one busy lunch queue, someone suddenly reached over and dropped a boiled egg into Precious's flask. She turned around and saw Tunde, a loud, dark-skinned guy from Lagos, with a gap-toothed smile that could make anyone laugh.
Take
it, Tunde whispered with a wink. You look like this parade wants to finish you.
If you faint here, these soldiers will just make you do more push-ups.
From that day on, the 2 of them became inseparable. During the agonizing 5-hour Said lectures inside the suffocating multipurpose hall, while the afternoon heat turned the zinc roof into an oven, Tunde was a survival mechanism, While camp officials lectured on how to make local beads or start a fish farm with zero capital, Tunde would lean over, fanning himself with his oversized khaki cap and whisper, "Don't worry, Precious. If NYSC no kill us for this camp, nothing fit kill us again for this life." Every evening, the harshness of the military regime melted away at the Mami markets. Mami was the soul of the camp. Coppers would sit on plastic chairs, surrounded by the loud blend of Afrobeat music. They would spend their last card on food, hot suya and drinks. One night, while wiping pepper from her lips with the back of her hand, Precious said, "Tunde,
After this one year, I'm writing the Federal Civil Service exam."
Her voice suddenly losing its playfulness, becoming quiet and serious. "Once I get in, the first thing I'm doing is building Mama her own proper kitchen. That woman has suffered in that face me, I face your apartment. I want to buy her a gas cooker that doesn't stain her fingers with soot." Today, look at her. His usual jokes fading for a brief second. He raised his glass bottle of mineral in the air.
To Mama's new kitchen. And to my future Tokumbo car.
Precious laughed, her eyes bright and hopeful under the Mami market lights. Don't worry,
everything will be alright. As long as we are alive, there is hope.
But the ultimate test of calm came on the final day. The parade ground was a sea of tension. Thousands of corps members sat under the hot sun, clutching their luggage, waiting to collect their PPA letters. The air was thick with the murmurs of people praying, some holding anointing oil, others frantically calling influential uncles in Abuja to find out if their redeployment had scaled through. Tunde found Precious sitting on her box under a tree, her fingers locked together. Precious, chill now. Tunde laughed, though his own eyes were scanning the crowd nervously. Even if they post us to the evil forest, we go survive, no worries. Suddenly, the platoon leaders began shouting, distributing the PPA letters. The crowd erupted. Some people screamed with joy, dancing, because they got posted to the capital city, Lokoja. Some people relocation worked. Others sat on their boxes, covering their faces, weeping, because they had been sent to remote riverine villages. Tunde opened his envelope first. His eyes widened. Meokuta Grammar School, Meokuta. Tunde read aloud, scratching his head. Where the heck is Meokuta? Precious hand shook as she opened her own envelope. "Tunde, look," she whispered, holding up the paper. Right there, printed in fading black ink, were the exact same words, Meokuta Grammar School. The NYSC computer system, in its random unfeeling lottery, had tied their fates together. They weren't going to the city. They weren't going to a place with electricity or good roads. They were being sent into the deep forgotten heart of Kogi State. Tunde looked at her paper, then erupted into a massive shout, grabbing her hand and pulling her into a clumsy dance right there on the parade ground. "You see, I tell you," Tunde shouted, "two of us, Meokuta no know wetin eat them. We are going together." Precious looked at the PPA letter in her hand, then at Tunde's unbothered smile. The fear in her chest slowly melted away, replaced by the warmth of companionship. She adjusted her khaki cap, took a deep breath of the dusty camp air and smiled. Oya, let's go, Precious said, her voice strong. As long as we are alive, there is hope. The village of Meokuta did not welcome Precious. It tolerated her. And from the very first day, the system showed its teeth. Meokuta was a place cut off from the modern world. The village transformer had been blown and blacked out for 3 months before she arrived. Water only came on Tuesday from a single communal borehole, and the main road into town was cut into half by a broken wooden bridge that the government had promised to fix during the last 3 election cycles. Every morning, when Precious is going to school, the village children will spot her green khaki trousers from a mile away, running down the dirt road, clouding the air with dust as they shouted, "Copper! Copper! Good morning, Auntie!" On her very first day at Meokuta Grammar School, she walked into a classroom of 35 students and tried to greet them. When she attempted to pronounce a local Igala greeting she had practiced all morning, Her tongue twisted so badly the entire JS1 class erupted into uncontrollable laughter. Precious didn't get angry. She put her hands on her hips, threw her head back, and laughed louder than all of them. But as the months rolled by in that dusty village, something deeper began to form. In a place where survival was a daily math equation, Precious and Tunde became each other's absolute answers. They simply refused to leave each other's sides. If you saw Precious walking down the red dirt track towards local markets, you didn't need to look far because Tunde was right there, carrying her plastic baskets and loud mouthing with local sellers. If Tunde went to the stream to fetch water, Precious would sit on a nearby rock, throwing pebbles into the water, shouting instructions on how he shouldn't drown himself. They shared everything. They cooked over a single rusty kerosene stove outside their rooms, fiercely arguing over whose turn it was to buy food, or who was better at managing their federal allowance. When the village boys played football in the red dust nearby, Precious would jump into the game, her oversized jungle boots kicking the deflated ball, while Tunde stood on the sidelines, acting as a chaotic dramatic commentator, screaming her name like she was playing in the World Cup. They were a fortress of two. If Precious looked tired during morning assembly, Tunde would immediately swap his lighter duties with another teacher just to stand near her class. If Tunde caught a mouth cold, Precious would march into his room without permission, cook tasteless pepper soup, and force him to drink it while he complained loudly. They didn't just walk the village, they inhabited it together. Naturally, this level of closeness didn't go unnoticed. The other core members in the local government area looked at their seamless unity with a burning streak of jealousy. At the monthly local government clearance meetings, whispered rumors spread like wildfire. Look at them, a female copper whispered, watching Tunde adjust the collar of Precious's khaki shirt.
They want us to believe they are just friends.
Who are they lying to? A boy and a girl cannot be that close unless something is happening under the blankets.
I heard
Tunde has already promised to marry her after service. Another rumor during lunch. Even the village youths began to tease them. When they passed by, Baba Taju, the elderly village tailor who passed her khaki shirts for free, would look up from his manual machine, eyes twinkling with mischief. Kopa Tunde, you are still following our fine wife up and down. When are we bringing the palm wine to her parents? Tunde would laugh it off with a booming voice, waving his hands. Baba, leave us so. Precious is too troublesome. She will finish my money. And Precious would ease playfully, shoving Tunde's shoulder. God forbid. Who wants to marry a Lagos boy that talks too much? They laughed at the rumors. They let the jealousy of the others slide off them like water on grease. They knew the truth. In a country that felt indifferent to their existence, they had found a rare, fierce platonic love. They were best friends, anchored in a storm, and neither of them was willing to let go. Precious became the heartbeat of the community. Every Tuesday morning, Mama Blessing, the old woman selling hot okpa by the roadside, would wrap an extra portion in banana leaves and slide it into Precious's bag. When Precious tried to pay, the woman would wave her hand dismissively, smiling with her deep wrinkled eyes. Keep your money, my daughter. Use it to buy sachet water. On Sunday, the village church was an explosion of color and rhythm. Precious would sit in the middle row, clapping her hands, while Tunde would try to mimic the traditional dances, making the village mamas twist around to hide their laughter. During the local yam festival, the village elders invited her to sit under the main canopy, serving her pounded yam on local clay plates. One elder tapped his walking stick on the ground and looked at her warmly.
Copper, when your service finishes, don't forget also, this village is your home.
But her true sanctuary was the giant mango tree in the schoolyard. There, she started the Meokuta reading club. When she noticed a little girl named Blessing struggling over a sentence, running words together in fear, Precious sat beside her, tilted the girl's chin up and smiled.
Read it again,
Blessing. Precious would say softly.
Don't rush. Punctuation has
a voice. When you see a comma, take a tiny breath. When you see a full stop, that is where you rest.
As long as we're alive, there is hope.
One afternoon, Blessing arrived crying because her exercise notebook was completely finished. Precious quietly opened her bag, pulled out 3 brand new notebooks and pushed them into the girl's hands. She put a finger to her lips and whispered, Don't tell anybody. Because network in Melkuta was a premium luxury, she had a routine. Every single night at 8:30 p.m., she would walk to the top of the rocky hill behind the school, holding her phone to the sky like a prophet looking for a signal. The moment it clicked 2 bars, she dialed home. Daddy, I'm fine. Have you eaten? Her mother's voice instantly cut in, grabbing the phone from her father. Mama, Precious shouted over the breeze. Answer me first, Precious. Have you eaten? Her mother said. Yes, Mama, I've eaten. The mosquitoes here have umbrellas and boots, but they haven't carried me away yet. Don't worry, I will be fine. Everything will be alright. As long as you're alive, there is hope. Another night. Daddy, how is your leg? Precious asked her father. The father replied, The pain is there, my daughter. But we thank God. Retirement is not as sweet as I imagined, but face your work there. Oh. Then another night, she called home. Her younger brother Toby grabbed the phone.
Sister Precious,
if you forget my laptop, I will report it to Mama. Send me allowance now. Precious laughed. Don't worry, everything will be alright. I will send you money. The real trouble began in October. It came quietly, riding on the wings of a single mosquito. On day 1, it was just a slight chill during morning devotion. It started with a small dull headache. Precious rubbed her temples during the morning assembly, but assumed it was just the fierce midday heat. Tunde noticed her shivering and told her to check it. Precious waved her hand dismissively, her stubbornness taking over.
Please leave me alone, Tunde. It's just malaria.
I will sleep it off. By tomorrow morning, everything will be alright. When she called home that night, she kept her voice steady so her mother would not panic. On day 2, the fever broke out properly. Despite the fever creeping higher, Precious refused to stay in bed. She spent 2 hours after school under the mango tree, her voice sounding slightly raspy as she helped the children pronounce their words. She ignored the shivering starting in her fingers. In the evening, Tunde cooked noodles for her, but she couldn't eat more than 2 spoons. Her voice was weak when she climbed the hills that night to talk to her parents. Mama, I'm just tired from school sports. I'm going to sleep. On day 3, things turned ugly. The vomiting began. She couldn't keep her morning pad down. Her skin was dry and burning. Tunde's jokes stopped entirely. He looked at her eyes, which were losing their brightness. Precious, we need to go to the chemist. She shook her head, wrapping herself in a heavy wrapper. It's just normal malaria, Tunde. I have some drugs left in my room.
Tomorrow morning, everything will
I'm
be
so sure
alright.
everything will be alright. On day 4, she could barely walk. Her eyes had turned a frightening dull shade of yellow, the classic sign of severe typhoid, joining the malaria, poisoning her bloodstream. She lay in her room, drifting in and out of consciousness. Tunde had to support her weight as he dragged her down the dusty road to the local comprehensive health center. Inside, the clinic was dead. The waiting room smelled of old damp files and dried sweat. Behind the concrete counter sat a community nurse. A movie was playing loudly on a small smartphone screen. Tunde banged his hand on the wood. Good morning. Please, we have an emergency. The nurse didn't move for 5 seconds. She slowly paused her video, locked her phone, and looked up at Tunde with absolute indifference. The doctor is not around, she said smoothly. He went to Lokoja for a wedding. Come back on Monday. Monday? Tunde's voice cracked. Look at her. She can barely breathe. She's not feeling fine. Anything can happen. The nurse leaned back in a plastic chair, her face completely blank. And what do you want me to do? Am I the one that gave her malaria? I said the doctor is not here. The pharmacy keys are with the matron, and she went to the market in the next town. They don't even give us an ambulance in this place. Can't you give her a first aid drip? Anything. Tunde was screaming now. The nurse picked up her phone again, her thumb hovering over the play button. If you want, go to the chemist at the junction. buy artemether injection and bring it back. Let me give her. But we don't have running water today, oh. So you have to buy pure water from outside so I can wash my hands first. Or better still, take her to the general hospital in the next town before her organs fail. Tunde quickly ran to the junction in the hot sun, his feet kicking up red dust. The first chemist was locked. He ran 3 blocks further to the second one.
Give me artemether.
Quick!
Quick!
Tunde shouted, trusting his ATM out to pay. The chemist boy looked at the screen.
Oga,
PS no get
get
network.
network.
No service. Jesus! Tunde screamed. He turned, ran down to the death row to a local cash point, paid a ridiculous fee to get physical naira notes, and ran back to grab the drugs. His shirt was soaked in sweat, his heart hammering against his ribs, but by the time he ran back to the clinic, the delay had done his damage. The infection had spread completely through her body. Precious was drifting in and out of consciousness. Tunde sat by her bedside, holding her hot hand, tears streaming down his face. Precious slowly opened her heavy yellowing eyes. She looked at Tunde, her lips cracking as she tried to force a faint, broken smile. She whispered so quietly Tunde had to lean in to hear it. Tunde, don't worry. Everything will be alright. Those were her last words. The nurse gave her the injection and told Tunde to take her home. On Sunday morning, it worsened. At this point, Precious suggested Tunde take her to the general hospital. The journey became a suffocating nightmare. There was no ambulance. Tunde had to beg a local driver with a battered, rusted old car to please take them. They helped Precious into the back seats, her head resting heavily on Tunde's shoulder. 30 minutes into the journey, on the isolated dirt road surrounded by thick forests, the car suddenly broke down. Black smoke poured from the bonnet. The radiator had overheated. Tunde pulled out his phone to call for help. 0 bars. There was no network. He jumped out, ran into the bush, found a muddy puddle, filled an empty jerry can and rushed back. The driver poured it in, cranking the engine. The car sputtered, roared back to life and began moving again. Tunde breathed a massive sigh of relief, clutching Precious tightly.
You see?
The car is working.
The car is working.
We are almost there,
there.
Precious. Just hold on. Through the dust, the gate of the general hospital finally appeared. Tunde's heart soared.
Thank God.
We finally arrived. The car halted at the emergency ward. Tunde lifted Precious in his arms, running through the emergency room. The emergency room was not empty. It was a chaotic, overwhelmed war zone of human suffering. A woman was already lying on the bare floor, groaning in labor. A baby was screaming in the corner. An old man was struggling to breathe on an old rusty hospital bed, while his young grandson manually waved a piece of cardboard over his face because there was no electricity to power the fans. Nurses were running everywhere, their faces drawn with exhaustion. Tunde pushed through the crowd screaming, "Please, someone help me. She's dying." A doctor finally ran into the ward. He was sweating, his eyes bloodshot, wearing ordinary civilian clothes. Because he had been working a 36-hour shift straight, he immediately dropped to his knees beside Precious, checking her pulse, lifting her eyelids. He looked up at Tunde, then he looked at the nurse, then he looked around the room. His hands dropped to his sides. There was no oxygen tank left. There was no blood in the bank. There was no functional equipment to revive her. The doctor looked at Tunde, his eyes filled with a deep, crushing defeat, and quietly said, I'm sorry. The system failed them completely, not on a lonely road, but inside the very building built to save lives. Tunde fell to the floor, holding Precious against his chest. He tapped her yellowing cheeks, his voice cracking into a desperate, agonizing sob. Precious, look at me. Please, you said it yourself. You said as long as you are alive, there is hope. Precious, stay with me, please. Precious slowly opened her heavy eyes. She looked at Tunde, her lips moving without a sound. She forced one last faint smile, a smile meant for the only boy who had never left her side. Closed her eyes, and her head fell back against his arm. Back in her hometown, that night was unusually cold. The wall clock ticked past 9 o'clock p.m. Her mother was sitting on the edge of the sofa. Deepo, she called out, her voice trembling. Precious has not
Precious has
called.
not called.
Her line is switched off.
Her line is
Since
switched
7
off.
o'clock. It's just saying switched off. Her father closed his newspaper. Comfort. Look at the time. You know how that village is. The network there is bad. Let us wait until morning. No. Her mother stood up. Her chest breathing heavily. My body is telling me something. I had a dream 2 days ago. I saw Precious standing by a river, waving at me, but she wouldn't cross. Dikpo, my mind is not at rest. By Sunday afternoon, the silence in the house was a physical weight. On Monday morning, the phone finally rang. An unknown number called. Her father snatched it, hitting the speaker button immediately. Hello? Precious, is that you? Answer me. There was a long silence on the phone. Then came the sound of loud broken sobs. It was Tunde, but the jokes were gone. His voice was completely broken. Good morning,
sir.
Please, is this Papa Precious? Yes. Where is my daughter? Speak to me. Dikpo replied. Sir. Tunde struggled to speak as he cried. Even through the static on the phone, his sobs were clear. Precious is gone, sir. We tried, sir. We had a local car to take her to the general hospital in town yesterday, but the vehicle broke down on the road because of the potholes. When we got to the hospital, she was still alive, sir. But after a few minutes, she stopped breathing in my hands. Sir, I am sorry. Precious is dead. Her father didn't drop the device. He slowly picked up his reading glasses. His hands weren't shaking, but his face had turned completely pale. He took a small cloth from his pockets, carefully cleaned his glasses, and put them back on. Then, he looked down at his phone screen again, as though clearer lenses would somehow change the words he had just heard. Behind him, a loud cry broke the silence of the quiet neighborhood. Her mother didn't just cry. She began to rip her clothes, rolling on the bare cement floor, begging the ground to open up and swallow her. Toby dropped the school bag at the door, staring at his father's frozen face, his eyes falling on the brand new school slippers on his feet. The next day, the white ambulance slowly drove out of Melkuta. There was no dialogue, no music, just the low dragging sound of the engine. Along the dirt road, the entire village had gathered. School children stood by the roadside in their uniforms. The old woman who sold okpa removed her black scarf, tying it around her waist in deep mourning. The funeral was a heavy, suffocating gathering. The emerging leaders' university classmates sat in the front row, weeping. The NYSC commandant stood at attention, saluting the caskets. A churchwoman sighed, squeezing her wrapper, whispering, "Well, God knows best." Another older woman turned to her face hardened by the reality of the country, and replied softly, "This country, oh my God." But that night, after everyone had finally left the compound, the house fell into a terrifying heavy silence. At 2:00 a.m., the old man got out of bed. He walked down the dark corridor and quietly turned the handle of Precious's bedroom door. The room was exactly how she left it. Her white university sign-out shirt hung on the back of the door. On a small desk sat a bottle of her cheap sweet perfume. The father walked over. His rough hands lifting the graduation gown, he pressed the fabric against his face. There, in the darkness, all alone, he fell to his knees. His shoulders shook as he cried, and his hot tears soaked the dress she would never wear again. The tragedy left a deep bleeding scar on Tunde. The loud joking Lagos boy vanished completely. For 2 months, Tunde refused to put on his NYSC khaki uniform. One Saturday morning, months later, Tunde walked slowly down the path towards the schoolyard. The giant mango tree stood there, its deep green leaves rustling in the morning breeze. He walked to the trunk, sitting down on the empty wooden bench, putting his head in his hands. He looked at the empty space beneath the branches, swallowed the lump in his throat, and whispered quietly into the wind, I couldn't save you, but I will protect what you started." He unzipped his bag and pulled out Precious's textbooks. He looked up. 10, 20, 30 village children were walking out from the shadows of the classrooms, their eyes looking at him with a quiet waiting hope. Tunde smiled weakly, his gap-toothed grin returning like a faint shadow of the past. Come inside. Let's start from page 1. Somewhere in Melkuta today, The giant mango tree still stands against the sky, and every Saturday morning, without fail, the children still gather beneath its shade. Blessing opens the worn-out storybook, a small finger tracing the black letters on the page. She stops on a difficult word, looking nervous for a second. Tunde watches her patiently from the bench. Blessing takes a tiny breath, remembering the voice of her old teacher. She smiles to herself and quietly says,
As long
as we are alive, there is hope. She continues reading the sentence flawlessly. Just then, somewhere beyond the hills of Melkuta, the quiet afternoon was broken by the low sound of a tired engine. A dusty bus drove into the village square, kicking up a cloud of red dust before it stopped. Another batch of NYSC corps members climbed down one after the other, shielding their eyes from the hot afternoon sun, adjusting their heavy bags. Among them, one young lady stopped. She adjusted her oversized khaki, looking around nervously at the unfamiliar village. She walked slowly towards the roadside, where an old woman sat beside a basin of warm okpa wrapped in banana leaves.
Please, ma.
The young girl asked softly, wiping sweat from her brow.
Where is the
Copper's Lodge? Mama Blessing paused. She stopped wrapping the okpa. She slowly lifted her head, her deep wrinkled eyes locking onto the young woman's face. She looked at her for a long, heavy moment, a wave of bittersweet memory passing over her face.
You look just like someone we once loved.
The old woman whispered softly. The girl smiled politely, touched by the warmth, but completely unaware of the weight behind the words. She picked up her heavy box, adjusted her bag, and began walking the dusty road. The movie continued. The hospital remained the same. The village remained the same. The system remained the same. And somewhere outside, another young graduate was walking towards a future she believed would last for only 1 year. If you enjoyed watching this video, please make sure you hit the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel, like this video, drop your thoughts down in the comment section, and I'll see you in my next one. Stay safe out there, guys. Good night.